The Dark Ages take up a pretty significant part of the Doom timeline with several important moments that occur. These are the arrival of the Doomslayer, the start of the Unholy Wars, the creation of the Doomslayer in the Divinity Machine, and the civil war between those who followed the Maykr and those who followed the Wraith. With the confirmation and trailer of Doom, The Dark Ages, we have so many questions about what we saw. As a lore guy and having created a huge deep dive into the timeline, I thought we'd explore this a little more. This game is set between Doom 64, The Lost Levels, and Doom 2016, and I believe it'll explain exactly how the Doomslayer ended up in that sarcophagus. So, which period of the Dark Ages does this new Doom game take part in? What led to the Dark Ages, and does this age end? In this video, we explore the Dark Ages of Doom. Before he became a hero, he was a superweapon of gods and kings. To understand exactly where and when the Dark Ages is set, we have to go all the way to the planet of Argent D'Nur and understand the history of its people to set the stage. Well before the arrival of the Doomguy, the people of Argent D'Nur thrived under the worship of the Wraith. It was because of the gift of Wraith essence and their magics that the strongest of the Argenta had been able to claim the land from the mighty ancestrals. Shortly after this, the Argenta constructed grand cities and crowned their first king, King Omero the Father, and to protect the cities and people from barbarians and other dangers, the king established the Order of the Night Sentinel to protect them and the sleeping Wraith they worshipped in their temples. These were the strongest and most resilient warriors of the Argenta, and they focused their minds on the perfection of the art of conquest. This was an exclusive order, and no outsiders were permitted to join the group, no matter their achievements. The Night Sentinel utilized the technology their scientists invented alongside Wraith magic to develop energized swords, spears, and blades. Although this order was established to aid Argent D'Nur, the population still suffered with other issues. The Night Sentinel were an integral part in the structure and society of Argent D'Nur, an incredibly important part of the story to come. Now, as the ages passed, the Wraith left the population to their own devices and went to sleep. It was because of this that the land suffered with natural disasters and barbarians killed innocents. The people prayed to their gods for help, but they did not receive anything. This age was referred to as the Time of Grief. However, in this time of depression, from the skies came the Maykr, angelic beings of power. The Maykr introduced themselves as gods and offered the Argenta knowledge and eternal peace in the holy realm of Urdak upon the death of their physical form. All they wanted in return was their worship. Although the Argenta had worshipped the Wraith for ages, they felt abandoned by them. To help his people, the reigning king of this age, King Etrex, accepted their offer, and the population changed their religion to the worship of the Maykr. As an order whose foundation was etched into the worship of the Wraith, the Night Sentinel still watched over the Wraith, but they too adapted their worship to the Maykr. In this change, a new age of peace and prosperity began. As promised, the Argenta were gifted with great knowledge as the Maykr worked with Argentan scientists to develop new technologies, weaponry, war machines, and constructions. Led by the Khan Maykr, her species truly wanted to help the Argenta expand. One of the greatest gifts the population received was the knowledge of spaceflight, a way to explore further than they ever had before. Sentinel warships of both Maykr and Argent design folded space to access new regions, powered by Wraith energy. The Night Sentinel and other Argenta explored new worlds under the banner of the Maykr. Some were colonized into new regions for the Grand Civilization. The species they encountered were also converted into the Maykr faith with the same promises they had been offered, and for some planets that did not cooperate or reacted aggressively to the arrival of the Argenter, they were met with hostility from the might of the Night Sentinel army. The Night Sentinel were not only the strongest army on their homeworld, but they also became a strong force in the universe. This was the golden age of the Argenter. On their exploration of space, the Bethian clansmen came across an ancient, habitable Mars, and the construction of the city of Habeth began. Some even explored Earth and set up small settlements there. However, not everything was as it seemed. The Maykr had brought order and prosperity to Argent D'Nur. For those who broke the law or deviated from the path of the Maykr, they were ordered to fight in the Colosseum. If they died, but if they rose against every trial inside, they were given the chance to fight for Argent D'Nur as a part of another army and continue to spread the word of the Maykr. It gave what remained of their life purpose. The Maykr species were messengers of the Father, an entity of incredible power, yet he had disappeared and the Khan Maykr had no idea where he was. This impacted her species immensely, as the Khan Maykr was designed to exist for a maximum of 10,000 years to guide the Maykr, and upon the end of this lifespan, another Khan was then destined to be made to continue the reign. Without the father and his power to continue the cycle, the reigning Khan simply stayed and she became susceptible to corruption. Urduk, her home also relied on an immense amount of power to function. Without the father, she felt the pressure to supply it, but she struggled to discover a source that could help. As the years passed, the Dark Lord sensed her weakness and corruption and tapped into it. She was told that a chosen one would threaten her rule and destroy her species. In desperation, the Khan reached out to the king of this age, King Rowan, and she explained that she had foreseen a schism in the blood of the Argenter and that a test was required to identify who this was. Under her instructions, Maykr Scalaris was tasked by her to construct a device for this test. This instruction resulted in the development of the Divinity Machine, powered by an element of the Dark Lord. Those suspected by the Khan of being the Chosen One were ordered to enter the machine in the Chapel of Purity. They were told that it would cleanse them of all impurities. Those who stepped into the machine were then driven insane and their souls destroyed. Despite the deaths of countless warriors over the years, the Argenter complied and accepted this holy writ to be a part of their worship, unaware of the Khan's increasing corruption. Now, with the backstory of Argent D'Nur, the Night Sentinel, the Wraith and the Maykr set up, we have the foundation of the Dark Age. The lore runs so deep, but these four factors are the most important. In Hell, the Doomguy had slaughtered every demon in his path. For years, millennia, aeons, he was feared by demonkind. Time flowed differently here. The Resurrector was a powerful demon, and she knew that the Doomguy would never stop his endless campaign to rip and tear his way through every demon. As they came face to face, he killed her, just like many of her kind. However, she had one final trick up her sleeve. With the power she held in her final moments, the Resurrector launched the Marine across worlds and space onto a path of perpetual torment, a path through doom way back into the first age of Hell. He was in a completely new place now, and he would never return to the Earth he had known, forced to fight in Hell for many years. Then, he was not in Hell, he was somewhere new. The Doomguy had found himself on Argent D'Nur, just outside of the castle walls of Sentinel Prime. Unknown to the population of this planet, they were on the verge of a dark age. The events during this period are scattered, which is why it makes so much sense that this is the setting of the new Doom game. Anyway, the Doomguy was discovered by Sentinel soldiers. He was bloodied, covered in scratches and on the verge of death. They discovered quickly that this Outlander was not from their world. They could not understand his human tongue. So, the warriors brought the human to the Sentinel priests, Daig Ranach, Daig Nilox, and Daig Grav. Before them, he spoke of guts, huge guts, and that he needed to kill them all. Despite his injuries, they admired the fight he still possessed, and in Argentan tradition, they sent him to the Colosseum to fight. In this arena, this human marine fought with everything he had. He was noted to be crude and brutal in his technique. His determination and charge echoed that of any true-born sentinel. His war cry echoed through the arena with his fury as he screamed, "Rip and tear." The spectators did not understand his human tongue, but they cheered it back. The unexplained arrival of the Outlander interested the Khan Maykr. She had no idea where he had come from and ordered that his language was learned so that she could understand him. The prisoners he fought against had no chance against his rage, and following his major success, he was offered a place in the front lines of the Argentan army by Daig Grav. Yet, the Marine still mumbled of demons everywhere, that he had to kill them all. The Khan Maykr asked that the Outlander's wounds be dressed and that he be brought to her so that she could learn of the others he spoke of. The Outlander spoke of lands unseen and creatures born of fire. To the Khan Maykr, however, she saw this as a place of power, a place that could save her species. As for the Outlander, he was placed into Argent D'Nur's army. On the eve of the Black Star, just as the Doom Marine had warned, the Dark Ones discovered Argent D'Nur. Out of swirling, fiery gates came horned beasts from the Timeless Realm. In their hordes, they swelled the obsidian forest of the Argentine overlands, the Alorum clans from the eastern mountains fell, and the city of Talorum collapsed under their swarm. The Night Sentinels and arena-born warriors charged to fight for the Maykr were dispatched instantly to fight off these interdimensional invaders and protect the main cities. This was the start of the Unholy Wars. Under the reign of King Novik, Argent D'Nur's Dark Age truly began. With a hatred for all of demonkind, the Doomguy raced straight to the front lines to wipe out the demons. He seemed to enjoy it and outlived many of the other warriors. In the background, the Khan Maykr and her priests approached the king. They wanted to understand this land that the invaders had come from and pushed that the warriors took the fight into the other dimension through their fiery gates. On the battlefield, the Sentinel warriors noticed the rage the human had. King Novik also noticed this and deemed him worthy of selection, to fight as one of the Night Sentinel and not of the common rabble. This decision broke Argentan and Sentinel history, as no arena-born prisoner had ever fought for the Night Sentinel. Yet, his ability to massacre demons was needed. As he trained, the Hallmasters deemed him an undying, unrelenting compatriot. He rose each time he was thrown into the dirt circle. No matter how battered or bruised he was, he still fought with a grim determination. As his training continued, he was taught the Order of the Night Sentinels' history, their ancient lessons of battle, brotherhood, and he wore their armor. He was no longer a Marine. As a Night Sentinel, he traveled into Hell 3 times on expeditions, and each time, he watched over and looked after those he fought with. He was forged into a brother in arms, under the command of the Maykr gods and King Novik. He was an ally and a weapon. As the days passed, the wars continued and the warriors fought as hard as they could. Then, the Maykr announced a new energy source to help them in their fight for Argent D'Nur. Argent energy, something to power their weapons to slay the demons. These vile forces had pushed the kingdom to the brink, but the worst was yet to come. As King Novik sat on his throne as the Black Star reached its zenith, just beyond the mountain rise to the east, a howling darkness assembled. This was yet another wave in this never-ending war, and this time, the demons walked with a monstrous titan, the Dreadnought. The Knight Sentinel had been able to fight off the constant hordes and floods of demonic entities so far, but this one was different. A being of this size had never entered this realm before, to anyone's knowledge. As it walked closer to Taris Nabad, it destroyed everything in its path. The Knight Sentinel, led by Commander Valen, did their best to fight back this horde, but even the Doom Marine struggled to take down the Dreadnought. As the fight commenced, Sama Maykr heard the whispers of the Dark Lord, and he was convinced to bring the Doom Marine to the Chapel of Purity, place him inside of the Divinity Machine, reverse the polarity, and activate it. Upon doing so, the Marine became something else, infused with the power of a god that powered the machine. He became the Doomslayer. Upon his arrival to the battle, the Slayer plunged the blade of his crucible into the Titan and saved the city. He became a hero to all Argenta. With this great victory, the Knight Sentinel continued their fight with their super weapon. They destroyed waves of demons and entered hell to fight the source. However, on one of their expeditions, they discovered the city of Necrovol. The warriors watched in horror as they saw the fallen souls of those they had fought with tortured in this factory of Argent energy. As they looked around, they saw the familiar architecture of Maykr and Sentinel. It was clear they had been betrayed by the very gods they had worshipped. Upon their arrival to Argent D'Nur, the Knight Sentinel called out the Maykr. The souls of the fallen Argenta had been used as fuel to power Urdak, this war, and the Angels. This accusation triggered a civil war. On one side, those who disavowed the Maykr and the awful acts they had committed against the Argenta, and on the other, those who either did not believe their gods could commit such evil acts, and those who simply did not care. The Maykr had helped this planet thrive, and Argent Energy had offered them incredible benefits, a longer life, no disease, and a place in Urdak upon their deaths. To the indoctrinated masses, this was simply a test of their faith. For years, the civil war raged on, along with the war against Hell. Knight Sentinels on either side fought against their brothers. Those corrupted by Argent energy became new demonic entities dubbed Marauders. The Knight Sentinel were desperate for an end to both wars, to at least stop their conflict with the Maykr and those loyal to them. They came up with a plan with two main objectives. The first was to take down the Soul Spire in Necrovol that transported Argent energy to Urdak. The second was to wake up the Wraith. If the Maykr lost their connection to power, surely the Wraith and Knight Sentinel army would be able to take them out. This was a solid plan, but the corrupted priests were smarter. Even at this point, the Knight Sentinel had no idea that these priests had betrayed their own kind. Commander Valen had lost his son in this war, and he had been plagued by dreams of his torture. De Grav approached Valen and told him that the nightmares were real and that he had the power to resurrect him. In return, all he wanted was the keys to the Sepulchre of Elements, the vault of the sleeping Wraith. Commander Valen was desperate, and in this moment of weakness, he betrayed the warriors he commanded and the old gods he had sworn to protect as he handed over the keys. In order to reach Necrovol again, The Hell Priests offered the Night Sentinel direct access to the Hell City through one of their portals, unaware of a sinister plan at play. The Doomslayer and the Night Sentinel accepted this offer and they entered. One by one, the Night Sentinel found themselves separated and scattered all over the twisted landscape of this dark realm. All of them were picked off one by one until only the Doomslayer and Commander Valen stood. This signaled the end of the Doomslayer's participation in Argent D'Nur's Dark Age. He had been a warrior for gods and kings. Trapped in hell once again, Titans fell at his feet. Over his time there, the demons feared him once again, and he even acquired the Praetor suit from a person or entity regarded to as the Verge. The Hell Priests later lured the Doomslayer inside the sprawling catacombs of Kadingir Sanctum and pulled down the temple above him. In this rare, weakened state, the forces of Hell came together and placed him inside of a sarcophagus. With the magic of this dark realm, he was placed in stasis and the sarcophagus was sealed. Without the Night Sentinel to protect them, the Khan Maykr, the Order of Daig, and those loyal to the Maykr helped in the demonic occupation of Argent D'Nur, as huge chunks of the planet were absorbed right into hell. Doom's Dark Age began the moment the Khan Maykr fell to the corruption. This age had so many interesting moments. The arrival of the Outlander, the start of the Unholy Wars, the creation of the Doomslayer in the Divinity Machine, and the civil war between those who followed the Maykr and those who followed the Wraith. From these, when does Doom the Dark Ages take place? The trailer has already been broken down so many times now, so I'll just say what I got from it. We can see that it takes place predominantly on Argent D'Nur and Hell. It would make the most sense for it to take place just before and during the Civil War period. The Doomguy has just become the Doomslayer but isn't viewed as a complete hero yet. As a Night Sentinel, we fight with the other warriors against the forces of Hell and those who sided with the Maykr. What I loved about Doom Eternal was that we got to see how this war came to an end. We see the destroyed structures and mechs stuck in place. From the trailer, we can see that we'll be using them in the battle. The Dark Age and Civil War period is fascinating. We do not know how King Novik died. We may get to see Commander Valen fight up close. Maybe we'll learn more about his son. The Maykr and their technology is also featured pretty heavily in the trailer. We see some sort of floating citadel of Maykr design. We see the Slayer preparing for a mission inside of a Maykr region. I am 90% sure that the Slayer is the projectile being launched from the ship. We may find out who made our Praetor suit, more of the history of the Night Sentinel, the Wolves, Maykr, and even Wraith. They are still shrouded in so much mystery. This has been planned as a more grounded version of Doom. We have the classic super shotgun and also medieval sentinel weapons. The flail, skull crunch weapon, oh, and the chainsaw shield looks incredible. That was all I had to say about the trailer really, as I wanted to focus this on the actual Dark Age lore. I for one cannot wait to find out more. I also think that this game will focus more on the killing of demons, with the Khan Maykr, the father, and the other godly creatures acting as more of a backdrop. That was everything I wanted to say really. If you enjoyed this deep dive, then I'd love you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment your own theories. Finally, I'd like to thank my gold tier patrons and channel members: Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, Chicken Guy 791, Ruben Mendoza, Duke, Toadnut, Oren X, Azu, Karatana, AJ, Verona, Comfy, BG Games, Apravis, Arnis, Blaze of Glory, Cole Sherman, Yoli Rodriguez, Nabar, 501st Clone Boy, Drakey Phoenix, and Logan Scott. Are you happy about this new Doom game? What do you think of the new weapons, and what would you like me to cover next? Please let me know in the comments below. this is where our story ends. Check back soon for a new one.